Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and tonight I'm joined once again by Chris McElwain and Kevin McCluskey. We are here, of course, to talk about Celtic versus Dundee, scoreless at the moment. Well, let me just run through the Scottish Premiership half-time score. Celtic 0, Dundee 0, Dundee United 1, Motherwell 1, Hearts 1, Kilmarnock 0, Ross County 0, Hibernian 0, St Mirren 1, St Johnstone 1, the Battle of the Saints in the final result. Not sure if you're interested. Aberdeen 1, Rangers 0. The goal coming from Nicky Devlin. So there we go. That'll put a wee smile on your coupon, Kevin McCluskey. Even though the first half we've just watched, I was just saying to Chris here, the way I can sum this up, we've had all the possession, but Dundee have been happy for us to have the ball because we've done nothing with it. No creativity down the wings, no urgency, no pace, no creativity in the midfield. It's difficult to say that's a poor performance. It's one of these performances, Kevin, that we saw this time last year, where we had all the ball and we created very, very little. We're kind of reduced to long distance shots, and we've seen a few of them in the first half, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. I was trying to think of the word to sum up that first half because trying to analyse how we've been playing, I don't think anyone, maybe with the exception of Yang, has had a poor game for us, but no one's been particularly good either. But we've dominated the game. Apart from their chance in the first minute, Dundee have not caused us any problems at all. We've been completely on top, but we've rarely looked like scoring ourselves. So the word I would come up with is it's just been very flat.
Flat,
Because, like you
absolutely.
said, there's no creativity really. Yang is playing like a guy that's played 22 minutes of football for us all season. You know, he's looking a little bit out of his depth at the moment. Palmer, God love him, he's trying hard. You know, like you said before, that's what you'll get from him at the moment. Someone's trying, but the end product isn't quite there. That pass for the outside of the right foot where he almost set Yang up was a highlight, but really it's few and far between. And the chance right at the end in the counter, you want that to be just anyone else other than Lewis Palmer running clear because he was never going to get us through on goal. The midfield, I think, have all done their jobs fairly well. They're all 6 out of 10s, but no one's really done that moment or done the Callum McGregor thing and grabbed the match by the scruff of the neck when we've needed it and dragged us forward 5 or 10 yards and given us the impetus to make something happen. Like that comment there from RL77, lackluster, that's another word that perfectly sums up that first half. But you and I, Paul, sat here in many games last season, watched the first half like that,
Yeah.
didn't panic too much because we were in control. And you just feel it's like when the first goal goes in, if the first goal goes in, that's when it'll open up from there. And it will be a comfortable 2-3 nothing victory. But we need to get that first goal first, before we can relax into it. That needs to happen. Otherwise, it gets a little bit tetchy if we get to the hour mark and final 15, 20 minutes and we're still chasing that goal. But like I said, we've seen the movie before and many times last season that had a happy ending for us. So let's hope for the same again.
Yeah, it's a good point you make because, once you get into the swing of doing a live show, Kevin, when it's a match day show, you realise very quickly not to throw the baby out with the bathwater at half time because anything could change in the second half. And we've seen so many games last season, Chris, where we were saying, you know what, Celtic are a 45-minute team. And by the way, I don't think we've played particularly poorly. It's just that we don't have any cutting edge. Some of the words coming in, wasteful, lackluster. Yeah, that's the kind of flat. That's the kind of first half that I think we've had. And before the game, of course, Chris, we took the fact that this is not our first 11. This is there are many changes and there's many players in there who wouldn't get into your strongest start 11. But I'm going to stick by what I said, Chris. If you take a 4 or 5 players out your team and you replace them with your core squad, they should be able to step in and still do the job. Obviously, Dundee have got a game plan. They've been working on it all week. There was a moment where I seen Kyogo getting the ball and there were 9 Dundee players in the box. And it wasn't like after a wave of attack. He gets the ball in the box. I counted them, 9 Dundee players. They're going to do that all night. It's down to us to create and have that wee bit spark.
It is, and that's not a new situation for us. That's something we've faced over a multitude of years. Now, we know how teams will set up to play against us at Celtic Park. But look, I'm going to add some balance to it because I think you've got 2/3 of a really good performance in that first half. I thought, I think our possession stats after 20 minutes were like 85%. I thought it was closer to 95%, to be honest. We were absolutely, it was like a siege initially, and funnily enough, it's one of our established first teamers in Kyogo, the man in the picture behind me there, that actually misses 2 gilt-edged chances. And I think if he takes either of those,
he should score both.
He should. He absolutely should. There's no excuse for it. I mean, in his defence, is there a player that's got better movement or better reaction time in this league than Kyogo? I don't think so. But it's the clinical edge and the accuracy that we're missing at the moment, and that wasn't a problem with him for him about a season and a half ago. But it is something that I think he struggled a bit with this season. But I think if you take those chances, either one or both, it puts a whole different complexion on the game, and I think the team would grow in confidence. Palma and Yang, I mean, a lot of scrutiny before the game. I think the energy's been there. I think it's possibly some of the best elements of willingness to run and chase and contribute that I've seen from either player, and I want to give them credit for that. Palma's had 2 decent chances. The one that Kev mentioned, I think, was also slipping the ball through for Engels, who made a great run. But I think that the overall, the big failing in the first half is the end product. It's that final third ball. And when you've got teams like Dundee sitting back, hoping to catch you on the break, but really trying to soak up the pressure, you need that invention. You need that ability to do something a wee bit unconventional, to do something the opposition's not going to expect, and provide those chances. And I think, you like to think with the law of averages, if Kyogo gets another chance like that, he's going to put one in. Now, what I would say, and what you saw towards the end of the match there, is that if you are as wasteful as we've been in this flat and we don't take the chances that are presented, mistakes start to creep into your game. And we started to give away possession towards the end of that half. We started to invite a little bit, not any substantial pressure, but, suddenly you're emboldening and you're incentivising your opposition to come at you and have a go because you've soaked up that pressure. And that then, changes suddenly the mindset of the fans. You heard the fans getting a wee bit frustrated towards the end of the match there. They're annoyed that suddenly we're having to defend a corner when we should have been 2 or 3 or 4 goals up. So we need to be more clinical. I think we need to, again, stop trying to score the Hollywood goal and actually do things a wee bit more simple. It seems like everybody wants to score this beautiful showpiece goal. We don't need that. We don't need the 30-yarder. What we need is simple, get the ball into the net, make ourselves comfortable, then you can start the showboating a little bit.
I'm going to bring this up, and it's not to have a dig at the commenter, but I do disagree with this. Mount Kadath comes in to say the 2 wingers did well, unlucky, Kyogo wasteful. I agree with that last bit. Kyogo should have scored the 2 chances that Chris mentioned. Yep. When it comes to the wingers, I've got to completely disagree with you, and I'm not just dying on a hill because I said at the beginning of the game that they aren't up to scratch. Yang, on a number of occasions, was played the ball by Carter Vickers or Ralston, and without even looking or thinking or trying to do anything, played it straight back to them. He must have done it 4 or 5 times in the first half. He has never taken on his man and played a ball in. Never in the first 45 minutes. He's never taken on his man and played a ball into Kyogo or anybody else in the box, not once. And that's the winger's job, right? And Palma has no pace. So what he tends to do is he puts his foot in the ball. He'll come inside. He's tried a couple of times to strike the ball from wide. One of them was wildly over the bar. So again, he's never very quickly taken on his man and whipped the ball in. Not once has either of the wingers done that. There's another part of the play here where if we have to get into a situation, and we've seen it a few times where Dundee are on the back foot, the wingers are a massive part of that. They've got to be part of a passage of play where it's high tempo stuff. Yang and Palma can't do it. And we've never really been in that situation where Dundee are on the back foot and you're looking for a dink into Kyogo. How often have we seen it this season? We've seen McGregor doing it a few times. Carter Vickers has done it where you've dinked it over and you're hoping that Kyogo on the shoulder of the last man is able to break the offside trap and then he's one-on-one with the goalie. Not seen it once today. And that's because we're not quick enough. The tempo's not high enough. And the wingers have got a massive part to play in that. Another thing as well, it's almost as if we've been reduced to the long-range efforts. Now, for me, the best... the guy that's done that the best this season, who's executed that more effectively than anyone else, isn't playing, because it's Callum McGregor. How many times has he done it? You know, he's had the ball for 25 yards out and he's managed to strike it. I've seen Bernardo trying it. I've seen Engels trying it. But we haven't managed to unlock this Dundee defence. It isn't an opportunity for me to say that the wingers aren't good enough. But in that first half, they have not created enough, Kev. So I really think a huge part of our problem in the first half has been the tempo, and a big part of that is the fact that once it gets to the wingers, you've got to keep the tempo high. What I've seen is that they're turning back, they're stepping inside, they're not hitting the line, there's no overlap from Taylor or Johnson, and twice in 60 seconds, Chris, we passed the ball into nobody and we're on the attack. So it doesn't look as though the fluidity is in there, but I take on board the fact that it's not a team that we would expect to see playing together tonight, Kevin.
Yeah, well, do you know, if you're not going to say it, Paul, I might say it. I don't think those two wingers are good enough. Simple as that for me. Yang just frustrates the hell out of me because I can see that there is a player there. But I want to see him running at the defender and taking him on, hitting the byline, putting a cross in, coming in field, committing his man. And he hasn't done it. I think there was maybe once when he took his man on down near the byline and then proceeded to lose the ball in the box. But he just disappoints. He flatters to deceive for me at the moment. Now, maybe that's just because he's lacking the minutes and you get him in the team on a more regular basis and he'll start to improve. But right now, he's not doing anything for me that would encourage me. And if I was Rodgers or anyone in the coaching staff to say we need to give him more of a chance, he's not really doing it. Palmer's just not a winger. I think we spoke about this again from last season. We see him more as playing infield as a number 10 because he's far too slow as a winger. He seems to want to play the through passes, which is good enough for a 10. He's got a good shot on him, but he doesn't do the things we need a winger to do. He doesn't come at his man. He doesn't hit the byline. He doesn't cross. That's what a winger does, and he's not doing the basics of what a winger should do. Now, I'm just really hoping I've put the commentator's curse on both of them, and Yang goes out and puts in a masterful second half performance, and Palmer bangs one into the top corner for 30 yards, and I'll quite happily eat 2 big bowls of humble pie if that's the case, but I don't think I'm going to be doing that tonight. I don't think either of them are up to scratch, and that's why they are 4th and 5th choice winger at the club, and that's why we've been saying for long enough we need to improve the wide areas because those two aren't good enough to step in. And I don't think there's anything wrong in saying that. I want the best from a football club, and at the moment those two don't come into my reckoning of being anywhere near the best.
When I'm looking at the changes, and I don't expect any changes to happen at half-time, Maida, Forrester, the two that are screaming out at me. We've obviously got a new partnership at the back. I think we've looked fairly solid. Other than that first minute, Chris, we've looked fairly solid at the back. I've got no real concerns about that. I think Johnston would be another good option because, you know, I'm looking at Ralston looks a bit rusty. Johnson's been overlapping all season, which obviously ignites that right wing position. We've not seen any of that, and of course there's that creativity that Hatate brings into the equation as well. So there are options on the park. I'm hearing that Aberdeen missed a penalty before the half-time whistle.
I just saw that.
And you know, it's one of the ones where they're sitting top of the league at the moment. They're beating Rangers 1-0. We need to go out and do our bit of the job. We need to look after our own backyard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jock Sporran can see Hatate coming on in the second half. The longer it sits at 0-0, Jock, I think Hatate's the guy on the bench who's going to create something. Jimmy Witherington, why do our wingers constantly knock the ball backwards? It was frustrating, Jimmy, because what you need is they're either going to have to turn, or, you know, what we saw on the right-hand side was a great partnership between Engels, Kuhn and Johnson, where there was a triangle that I've seen nothing like that tonight with the passage of play. There doesn't seem to be any fluidity on either wing. Joe Fulham, no messing, Brendan. We need the points. Yes, we do. And because you're right, we can win it. Of course we can win it. Celtic need to be more clinical. And I'm going to go back to last season with Kevin. McCluskey, where we sat here at halftime so many times this happened, and we said, you know what, first 15 minutes, we're going to get the goal, we'll make a few changes, and we'll win comfortably. Let's hope it happens tonight. Go away, enjoy the second half, join us at full time, and thank you for joining us on A Celtic State of Mind.